once the puck drops on a Friday night, it's absolute war. It's like we go at it. It's so intense.
Really?
We only play 28 games, so every game is massive. It just the adrenaline and it's constant here. And at the top of the standings, you've got U of A, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Mount Royal, UBC. All 5 teams are unbelievable. All have NHL draft picks. All have WHL All-Stars. And the caliber, when you come on a Friday night to see U of A versus UBC or Calgary versus Saskatchewan on a Friday night, it's unbelievable hockey.
That was Sven Butenschon, head coach of the UBC Thunnderbirds of Canadian U Sports. And you are listening to the Up My Hockey podcast with Jason Podolak. Just watch me now. Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podolak, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podolak, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Hello there. Welcome back to the Up My Hockey podcast, or welcome to the show for the first time. If you are a first-time listener, happy to have you. This is episode 130-something, I think maybe 131. And today we're going to talk to an old teammate of mine by the name of Sven Butenschon. Sven was somebody I crossed paths with. Why is that so hard to say? Back in the WHL, he was with the Brandon Wheat King. Oh my goodness, the mouth is not working today. He was with the Brandon Wheat Kings when we were crossing paths with the Spokane Chiefs. They had the best team in the East. We had the best team in the West. So we clashed in a WHL final. Our paths crossed again in the minors here and there, and we also played together in Mannheim in the DEL with the Adler. So we know each other personally, but haven't chatted in like forever. So I just had something come up on social media the other day that said he won Coach of the Year, and I reached out and said, hey, let's have you on. And he came on, and I'm very thankful that he did. First of all, we didn't talk about his career at all, despite the fact that, he would have a lot of things, I'm sure, to say. And maybe we should revisit Sven for another episode, because the guy played 140 NHL games. He played with Pittsburgh, Edmonton, the Islanders, the Canucks. He was a stay-at-home defenseman, big, lanky guy, 6'6", had a really long stick and a lot of stick-to-puck work with him, and was a good skater, puck-moving defenseman. Get that puck out of his zone. And he was always, as he says in the conversation, like right at the end, he mentions that he was always either like a 6 in the NHL or a 7, or the first guy kind of called up in the minors. So if you look at his hockey DB, it's crazy, like how many teams he played on, up and down in the minors. Like I said, 140 NHL games with 4 different teams, 486 games split between the IHL and the AHL, and also 380 games in the DEL. That's over 900 games of pro experience at some of the highest leagues available. So this guy was a player, played for a long time. It's a testament to, his game and what type of person he is. And he also played in the Olympics for Germany in 2010 in Vancouver. We didn't talk about any of that. Now, why, you might ask? Again, it's nothing to do with a lack of respect for his career, because I'm sure there's a bazillion nuggets in there. We didn't talk about it because his team, he's the head coach of the UBC Thunnderbirds in the Canada West Division of the U Sports League, just won that crown, the Canada West crown, for the first time in 53 years. Plus, he was also named not the head coach, he was named the Coach of the Year. And so those are two things we're celebrating. Obviously, it just happened here this past weekend. So if you're listening to this live, this is a new occurrence. They're off to the national championship out east. So we talked about his crew, of course. We talked about his team. We talked about U Sports in general, because as a Canadian, even as a Canadian, and as a Canadian hockey guy, I don't know much about the U Sports League. I don't know why it's not more widely scouted. Like, I do know that there's a heck of a lot of good hockey players that are there, but I've never seen a U Sports game. I've never attended one live. I don't know how the recruiting process works. I don't know what they're able to offer players. I don't know what the attitudes of the players are like once they're there. What are their goals and dreams? Like, how does it all work, right? So I was a very, very much just a curious person in this discussion. So if you have any interest at all in Canadian youth sports and want to know more, this is an amazing conversation for that. If you're a curious hockey person, I think you should stick around just because there's a lot of good things to know about the Canadian youth sports system. And it is a rising league when it comes to the NHL. As far as from prospects is concerned, that is one thing that we cover quite extensively here, is like, why isn't it more highly regarded? Like, the players and where the players come from and what the players have accomplished previous to arriving in Canadian youth sports is very, very comparable, if not superior, to NCAA Div 1 programs. Yet there are less players coming out of Canadian youth sports to the professional level than are coming out of the NCAA. It doesn't really make sense, and we sort of break that down about what is happening. I mean, how the culture in Canada needs to change about it. What the marketing is like for it. What the brand is like for it. I mean, it's just a completely different animal up here. But what is being missed is some amazing hockey that's being played. To Sven's point, these are wars on the weekend. These are really good players, old players, experienced players, old players by the like, I'm talking like mid 20s, 23, 24, 25, that are playing some really, really good hockey. So so it's a conversation based around the Canadian university system, and we talk about how the WHL and their contract now with players, that every year of service that you get in the WHL, you get a year of tuition paid for at a Canadian university. That how this has really helped even grow the U Sports program, because now these players who maybe were drafted and then didn't get the NHL contract they were looking for, or maybe they were never drafted but had really good a WHL career and maybe a really great overage year, and they are potentially being offered an AHL deal or maybe an East Coast League deal to go play somewhere. They have more to consider because they have in their pocket 4 years at a Canadian university of their choice, and they can play really high level hockey and not lose the rights to that money. And then they still have the ability to obviously go on and to play professional hockey after that. So so we cover that. I mean, how that's been a game changer for Canadian youth sports. We celebrate his team, and this was a really fun one for me. I love getting involved in conversations where I don't know anything, and that's essentially the truth of it. I didn't know much at all about Canadian youth sports, and now I know a heck of a lot more. And it sounds like it's a thriving league that is just on the up and up. So congratulations to Sven and to the UBC Thunderbirds, very, very capable representatives of the West, which I now know is a very strong conference or division in Canadian youth sports, and I'm sure they will do very well at the national championships. They will have to contend with, if they get to the final, the monster from University of New Brunswick that went through an undefeated season this year, that did get a little bit of social media shout out and awareness, but apparently they just have a wagon over there, and it sounds like they're a very good team. So best of luck to the UBC Thunderbirds. Best of luck to Sven. Congratulations again on his Coach of the Year award win. And I think that it's now a good time to cut to the discussion with Sven Butenschon, head coach of the UBC Thunderbirds. Enjoy. All right, here I am sitting with an old teammate from back in, the DEL Mannheim days, and now the head coach of the UBC Thunderbirds. Welcome to the show, Sven Butenschon.
Thanks for having me on, Pods.
Hey, man, it's just wild the way it kind of worked out. I know you're not very active on social, but your wife handles your account there and posted your award. First of all, congratulations on Coach of the Year. We'll get into that, but I was like, awesome, Coach of the Year. Let's see if he wants to chat. And then here we are, 3 days later or whatever, maybe a week later, and And then I was just looking up because I want to know about U Sports, right? And I don't know much about it. And then when I did that, I saw that you guys just won the Canada West. So I had no idea. So this is like super exciting for me. And I guess also for you, because you're just coming off this big championship. So where should we start? Maybe, I guess we should start with the championship. Like how the season must have just been an absolute blast. Like let's get into that.
Yeah, man, it's been so much fun. We had a bit of a veteran group coming back. We didn't lose much after last year. So after we got knocked out last year, the boys came up to me right away and said, that they have so much more to give, and next year's our year. I didn't even initiate some of those conversations. They came right to me with so much confidence. And we lost in the Claire Drake against U of A in Game 3 of the semifinals last year. So then when you fast forward to this year, we're playing, and my message after that game was, let's make sure next year that game is in our rink with our home cooking and on our terms. And we went out there this year, had a great regular season, got first place, got the home ice advantage. And then in the quarterfinals, we have a bye, so we're watching U of A go to Saskatchewan. Their game, their series goes to the final game. They win in overtime. Boom, we get U of A at home on our terms, just like we talked about a year before, almost 365 days earlier. So that's the team we wanted. And we were super excited to, seek some vengeance and finish the job. And then in our league, the top two teams from Canada West represent the West at nationals. So all you got to do is win your semifinal matchup, which is U of A. So they came in, they beat us on the Friday. Part of the problem with that first place seeding is you get a bye, so you're a little bit off with your timing. Whereas Alberta's played 3 incredible games against Saskatchewan. The final game goes into overtime, so they're battle tested. Their juices are flowing, and they come in on Friday night and they beat us. And they checked us really, really well. And U of A normally is stacked with tons of offensive players, 100-point dub guys. But this year they had a bit of a different identity, and they were extremely well organized away from the puck, checking wise, defensively. So it was a tough series. We win on Saturday, we win on Sunday, get the job done, book our ticket to nationals. But it was a tough series. 3 games, it goes 3-3 in playoffs. I mean, think about that, Pods, like how intense playoff hockey is, how physical it is, the emotional ups and downs. Because if we lost on Friday, so you come to the rink on Saturday being positive and optimistic, but you fall behind on the early on, or you give up a couple. You start thinking about those things. So we kept our routine. We stayed mentally focused and tough. Got the job done against U of A, and then regrouped during the week. And then we hosted U of C, the Calgary Dinos, in the finals here. Same thing, lose on Friday. Saturday we fall behind 1-0. We get a power play in the second. We execute on the power play. And then halfway through the third, it's a D-zone face-off. Jake Lee, one of our standout defensemen, makes a great little outlet play off the face-off win. Jack Wismer slashes across through the neutral zone, takes their D wide and buries it off the rush, go up 2-1. And then we locked it down the last 10 minutes. I don't think we gave up a scoring chance the last 10 minutes. The guys were sacrificing every body part they could, blocking shots, get the win, tie the series 1-1. And then Sunday, do it all over again. And that was just an electric game. So cool to do it at home in front of the friends and family, and the atmosphere. We got about 1,500 people in the rink, and it was something else, man.
That's cool. So So you came from down 1-0 both times, and so that first series, if I got that right, like if you won that series, you've punched your ticket now to nationals. Like whoever won against the
Yes.
Dinos, like you guys are both going, but it's just for the
Yeah.
prestige of actually winning the
Yeah.
playoffs, right?
And a better seat at nationals.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you were down. I actually watched the replay of that game, down 1-0, you said, and then up 4-1. But then boy, they came back two in
I
the
know.
third,
I know.
to bring it close. That must have been a bit of a nail biter there down the stretch.
Right. It's just classic hockey, right? Like they want to win just as badly as you do, and they have great players. And uh, it was such an even series that, yeah, they get one kind of greasy one off the backboards, and then a beautiful quick shot with the tip. Now it's 4-3, and you're looking at the clock, and it's still a lot of time left.
12 minutes left.
I know. It was. I swear, I saw my heart beating through my suit. It was so intense. But as a coach, you got to be calm, cool, and collective in those moments. But underneath, you're sweating.
Hey, speaking of calm, cool, and collected, I got a chuckle because you were anything but on that one goal you guys scored. I didn't realize you could jump that high there in the first period. You were down one, and just for anyone who didn't see it, I mean, I never saw it, but they were down one in the first, and their goalie made an absolute huge save on a 3-on-1 that would have made it 2-0. They go back the other way, and 3-on-2, beautiful play, beautiful passing play, finishes it, and then the camera cuts to the bench, and Sven, who's like 6'6", jumps probably to like 8'6" at least, and like the hand in the air. Like you were pretty excited there.
Yeah, well, I wear that whoop strap, and man, it's hilarious looking at your data after those games, at your stress and anxiety levels, and your calories. I figured out.
Just standing there.
Yeah, well, a lot of like step ups, right, on the bench, down the bench.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I realize that too, and I'm coaching. It's just like you're always kind of up and down. Like you never, at least I'm not. I'm not just standing like stationary. I mean, you're always kind of doing something. But anyways, yeah. Well, congratulations, man. That's I guess I read 53 years since you guys have won the Canada West.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, that's a while. That's a while. Awesome stuff, man. I wanted to. One first, and obviously, congratulations on Coach of the Year. I have no idea how that comes about. Like, is that a peer group vote thing, or who establishes that?
Yeah, the coaches vote on all the awards in our league, and I think there's a few media people that vote as well. Yeah, I think for us finishing in first place, hosting. That was the first time we've ever hosted Canada West Finals. So amazing, first time 50 whatever years winning it, and that was actually the first time we ever got to home ice and host that
Right.
series. So yeah, just classic team success. Coach gets the feather in his cap, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, congratulations. Obviously, you're doing something right there, and you've been there since 2015, which gets me. I'm just going to be super curious hockey guy right now because I don't know much about you sports. So, like you being there that long. Are you responsible for the recruitment of the team? Essentially, are you like coach GM? Is that how that works? Or
yeah, coach GM, recruiter, meal planner, psychologist for 27 guys. So it was a steep learning curve at the beginning because I came from the pro side of things where all you do is wake up, train, go to the rink, eat, nap, do it all over again. Completely different animal here, especially at a high academic standard school like UBC. What the guys do in the classroom is just so impressive with the academic load of the school, and then to come to the rink. And I mean, I'm sure you got a grasp on some of those highlights of just the caliber of hockey is unreal. Nobody really talks about it. Like you're curious, and most people are, because we don't do a great job marketing or selling the league.
right. Well, that's kind of where I want this discussion to go because there has been some guys have now been getting signed, NHL pro deals out of U Sports. And yeah, I mean, maybe we will dive in. I mean, so You being a recruiter, well, I mean, and again, so I assume I'm just going to assume that most of my listeners are essentially like me, that they don't know much about the league. I'm curious about it. I don't understand why the NCAA D1 has been positioned as higher, and just from the simple fact of the majority of the players in your league, from what I have seen and heard, are Western League graduates, and a lot of times good players, and taking nothing away from the BCHL, because there's a hell of a lot of good players there too, but there's a lot of players that can't make the WHL from the BCHL that go on to have D1 scholarships and play in this league that seems to produce more pro players. So that's maybe my starting point, is like, should there be more players coming out of U Sports signing pro contracts, or where do you think, like, is it being watched more in your opinion by NHL scouts? Like, how does that all look on the landscape?
Well, lately for us, yeah, there's been more eyes in the rink, and I get texts from NHL scouts quite a bit now. There was a head pro scout at one of our games about a month ago, watching a couple of our guys. But you're right on all that stuff. I'm recruiting right now, mostly WHL guys. I still try to get a couple tier 2 guys in there because honestly, Pods, those guys are phenomenal in the room. They have so much to prove. Sometimes you get a dub guy who is a little pissed off that he's not playing for the New York Rangers and his buddies are with the Chicago Blackhawks, and he's playing U Sports, and it might take him till Christmas to kind of snap out of that funk. Whereas you get a tier 2 guy, we got a few of them on the roster, and they're so pumped and excited to be here, and their practices are their games, and it elevates the practice quality. And so those guys are super important, and some of them turn into solid U Sport players as well. So we don't just recruit them because they're good guys; they're still good players.
Yeah.
And then as far as that, we can't say it's a facade that the NCAA is such a higher caliber hockey. It's not. Mostly like what you said, these are guys that have played at a high level in the dub. They're also older. You think about in the WHL, they play so many games, they're riding the bus, they're tired, they're beaten up. Here we play Fridays and Saturdays, so you got all week to prepare. You can pre-scout all week. You can plan for your opponent. All the guys know the players in the league too, because we only have 9 teams across Western Canada, and they've all played each other in junior and growing up. So there's no surprises there. And then once the puck drops on a Friday night, it's absolute war. It's like we go at it. It's so intense.
Really?
We only play 28 games, so every game is massive, and we don't have fighting, which also leads to a lot more emotion. Like sometimes you just need a fight or two to settle things down out there, but we don't really have that in our league. So it just the adrenaline and it's constant here, and at the top of the standings, you've got U of A, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Mount Royal, UBC. All 5 teams are unbelievable. All have NHL draft picks. All have WHL All-Stars. And the caliber, when you come on a Friday night to see U of A versus UBC or Calgary versus Saskatchewan on a Friday night, it's unbelievable hockey. It's somewhere between the A and the coast, I'd say. Maybe the fact that the academic burden is affects the guys a little bit. Like I can't keep them here and do an hour video and 2-hour practice and skill session and goalie session. We got to be really mindful of their time management. That's the one loss that I would have as a coach. I wish I had more time with the guys, but we don't.
Yeah. What is so you mentioned where you think it would stack up on a pro level, which is interesting because I mean the East Coast League's hell of a league. The AHL is obviously a really, really good league. What about just against and I mean we're playing fantasy here, but should D1 champion play the U Sport champion, and why don't they? And what do you think that would look like?
Well, so we brought up Wisconsin a few years ago when Caulfield, Condre Miller, Turcotte, who's in LA.
Yeah.
the kid in Edmonton, he's a year younger than everybody else. I always forget his name. But yeah, Dylan Holloway, he was there too. Okay. So they came up here for 2 exhibition games. It was early. It was August 29th or something. They're doing, they wanted to get away, do a team building, a little team trip, and play a couple of games. First game, we lost 3-0. And the second game, I think, was 6-5. We lost as well. So, and that team was stacked. Right. And I had like 4 practice days to get ready, because I can't ask guys to come in middle of August here. Like they have summer jobs. The cost of rent in Vancouver, as you probably know, is crazy. So I can't ask the guys to come any earlier. So we had four practices to get ready for Wisconsin, and the games were super competitive. Out east, you've got the University of New Brunswick, who they historically are the top team. They play exhibition games against AHL teams and NCAA teams, and they're unbelievable too. So, I think what you get in the NCAA is more speed, more skill, but youth. And then in our league, it's heavier hockey, older guys, stronger on the puck. So it would be an interesting matchup for sure.
Right. So that is the difference, I guess, right? I was just thinking that as you were talking, because the NCAA has, their top guys are really high-end guys, but they're also really young guys, because they're the guys that are graduating high school, generally American, that are there. So you got the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that, are studs, let's say, whereas your league, again, I'm assuming there's not many guys that are just graduated that go there, because they're probably playing junior hockey in the WHL or somewhere, right? So they go once they age out of the WHL, so which makes it a little bit older on that side, but not necessarily older, because there's tons of old players in the NCAA D1 too, right?
Yeah. But
so you're just missing that top end, like the real top end talent, because the top end of the WHL graduates to the AHL or the NHL. Right, like the creme de la creme there at 20 or whatever, and then so you're getting the guys that either haven't signed a pro contract, could be great players, but kind of have no place to go or don't want to go pro and go play in the East Coast League or something.
Yeah, right? That's a good way to put it. I think you're missing 2 or 3 highly skilled guys on each team would maybe be the difference.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That's which to me again doesn't make sense of why there's not more guys that are 24, 25 coming out of U Sports, because, those top end draft picks, they're gone at 20 anyways. Like barely any of them ever stay 4 years, right? Like Cale Makar leaves. I mean, this goes on and on, right? These guys just leave, they play there for a year or 2 and then they go, which leaves the rest of the league as being guys that are very similar to players like that you would have, I would think.
Yeah, you need a team to take a chance, right? Because you're going against tradition. And just an opportunity, like look at Derek Ryan, how he's flourishing in the NHL. He's a former U Sport guy at U of A. There's a few of the guys that are scattered around the AHL mostly from New Brunswick. Again, they put out 6 or 7 AHL guys every year. So you just need a scout or an NHL team that's willing to take a chance on a guy. And they all say it to me, like, I don't know why we're signing a guy that plays at UMass on the third line, who was really was a disappointment at development camp. Like, why would we sign that guy when, the Edmonton Oilers have the U of A Golden Bears in their backyard? How cool would it be to sign a guy or 2 from that team? It's great for that, strengthening the community relationship and the fan base, the younger fan base, and just really cool storylines there. And we got some guys here on our roster that I think would be excellent pros, solid AHL guys, and with a little bit of luck and proper development, they would have a chance.
Yeah, that's exciting. I actually interviewed Derek on the pod. What an amazing story he has, Derek Ryan. Obviously, I'm talking about, and I mean that's not the norm, and even less the norm at the time, even when he was there. Right, there was very few guys coming out then. And now you do hear a little bit of a spattering.
Yeah, one thing just to kind of complete painting the picture for you. Years ago, the WHL stepped up and provided the scholarship program, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a real game changer for our league, because now most of the guys that come through the door, they have a full 4 or 5 years of schooling paid for. So now when you make that decision after your 20-year-old year, Do I want to go to the coast? Do I want to go to Europe? Do I maybe want to take a two-way? I had guys that turned down two-way deals, AHL East Coast deals, to come here because they're smart enough and the parents are smart enough to know, okay, well, if you're playing the A as a 6D man and the Anaheim Mighty Ducks send their defenseman down to the AHL team, and then you got to go down to the coast, and then you're in the coast for 2 months and you're not making money, your credit card's getting racked up, and you're going to lose that scholarship that the Dub's providing. So that's kept a lot of players going and excited and active in our league. And I think that's probably when our league changed from being a solid, cool league to an actual, impressive. Like if you came to me, man, you like, even for the first time I got here, I stepped on the ice and I was shocked. I was surprised. I had no idea how good it was.
Just going to take a short break from the conversation with Sven to celebrate the UMH 68. So the UMH 68 Invitational is going on in British Columbia. The recruitment process is going right now. The identification and the invites are going out. The idea and concept behind this was something that I came up with last year. The idea that the best of the province should be celebrated, and they should be identified, and they should be coming together for not just a typical hockey tournament, but actually for a developmental, educational experience where peer on peer, best on best can be competing on the ice in a very professional format. Stop time games, your own dressing room, NHL alumni coaches, player banquet with guest speaker, like the bells and the whistles coming out for these players to develop and to help them on their journey. And it's a really exciting time because I am now trying to source and identify and invite who the top 68 players are in the province. In the 2010 birth year is going to be one weekend, and in the 2011 birth year is another weekend. And we do have a lot of invites out. I am handling the admin of this, which is crazy to do 2 weekends now. We can imagine over 100 invitees that we have to find emails for and have to identify as being deserving of the invitation. And managing all the forms and the information that goes along with that. So it's crazy. It's a crazy time for me right now, but it's super exciting because I get to go to these tournaments, to these playoffs, to these provincial championships, and watch these different age groups, and along with my network that I'm establishing as far as area representatives of who know the players to make sure these invites go out and to make sure they get recognized. Last year was the inaugural event for the 2009s here in British Columbia, and it was fantastic. The proof of concept was amazing, and it really got me excited about doing it again this year. And instead of having 30 days like I did last year, but actually to have a season to to handle it and to prepare and to plan and to get ready. So that is what's happening right now. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because finding the emails and contacts of the players is the most difficult part. And it's amazing. Like sometimes I'll find the general manager of a team's email address, and I'll email and I'll say, hey, we've identified so-and-so. Can you put me in touch with the parents? And you won't hear anything back. Some people email within 5 minutes and think it's amazing. So it's a little bit frustrating with who wants to support their players and who doesn't. But it's a challenge. So what I'm saying is, if you are in the BC area, if you have a 2010 or a 2011, and if you feel that they are worthy of being invited as a potential of a top 68, then by all means, please use the website, outmyhockey.com, and fill out the player watch list form. Right now in particular, I know this podcast is timeless and the episode can be listened to forever, but if you are a current listener and you listen kind of in real time as they are released, the BCEHL teams, the U15 AAA teams that have some great 2010 players playing on them as first years, I'm having the most difficulty reaching those teams and players. So the Thunderbirds and the Canadians and the Giants and teams like this. So I have reached out to the GMs. I have not been successful in receiving responses. So if you are listening and you are from one of those areas, whether the island or the Lower Mainland and here in British Columbia, and you have a source for me, or have the ability to provide maybe some parent emails or some of these first year players, that would be fantastic. fantastic. Again, super exciting time. The UMH 68 is coming to Alberta next year. It is coming to Saskatchewan next year, hoping even Manitoba for the 2025 season. And we are going to be running with the major U13, so second-year Pee-wees and first-year Bantams. And it's, it really fires me up what we were able to accomplish last year. Again, with the development side, like, there's so many hockey tournaments you can go to, and guess what? They have a tournament, and you play the games, and then you go home. This is completely different. One, we are going to play full-length, real hockey games. 20-minute stop time, ice clean between every period, taking care of business that way, of course. 3-star awards that are unlike any other, picked by WHL scouts with actual player awards that mean something to them, like, go to the local sports store with this $100 GC and buy what you want because you played amazing. Like, stuff like that is going on at this event. But we're also bringing in WHL GMs to host WHL workshops to inform the parents and the players about what is happening, how they recruit, what are they looking for, why is it a good option. We have BCHL GM coming in and doing a workshop on why the BCHL is valid, what direction they are heading in, why your child or why you should think that of pursuing that route. We also have fitness testing and get into the nuts and bolts of how to develop and how to train properly for the age group. So yeah, we're really we're informing. I say it's about education. It's definitely about competition, best on best, getting like-minded, like-skilled people to push each other for a weekend. But more importantly, it's about developing the human behind the athlete. And as you know, if you listened up my hockey at all, I take that very, very seriously. So this event, this UMH 68, has a very, very literal up my hockey piece component to that. It is about the growth of the human being to become a better hockey player, to help them be on their hockey journey and become the best hockey player that they can be. So a lot of exciting names have already committed. We will be doing some social media announcements to celebrate these players who have been identified and who have committed to the program here in June. Really exciting time for the people of Vernon too, to bring the best of BC in for a weekend and to be able to watch some really amazing hockey. So again, if you can help out with some names, if you are somebody that thinks that you are a name, then by all means go to the website UMH 68 or Up My Hockey in the UMH 68 underneath the showcase and put your name in on the player watch list. And and watch for more updates. It's something that I'm really excited about. It's a franchise under the brand of Up My Hockey that has exponential growth attached to it. And the other part of that is I'm looking for sponsors for this event. I do think a corporate sponsor right now would be a fantastic thing to get involved in. If you are into giving back to the game, I would be looking for somebody that would help out with scholarships for players to come to get to the event, to minimize the cost for them. Also to award excellence at the event with future tuition type things and bursaries. So there's lots of stuff that could be a really good field component for a corporation that wants to get involved in the UMH 68 on a Western Canada type level. Like, this is definitely going to be growing and is not just isolated to British Columbia, although this year it is isolated to British Columbia. So if you are a local BC business that wants to get behind people from the best of the best from 2010 age group and 2011 from all across British Columbia that are coming, and you feel that this UMH 68 is a good idea for you and something you'd want to be associated with and support the young players pursuing their dreams, and by all means reach out to me on www.upmyhockey.com, and I would love to have a conversation. Now let's get back to the conversation with Sven Butenschon. Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. I actually had that on my list of things to ask you about, because so that is one of the things that I believe, and now correct me if I'm wrong, that you're fighting against the D1 schools, is that they can provide athletic scholarships and these guys don't have to pay, right? Yeah. You guys can't do that. Is that true?
We can provide awards. So it's not technically a scholarship, and the guys can use that award money for whatever they want. Rent, food, and every team is set up differently. But most of the guys get some sort of award money to help pay for room and board, I would say.
Oh, okay. So then let's just say I'm a guy, I'm an overage, I just had a great year in the dub. For whatever reason, I'm not going to go pro, and I would be considered a high level recruit for your league.
Yeah.
I'm coming with my 4 years of WHL scholarship money.
Yep.
How do you influence me to sign with the UBC? Like, is there something you can do with that award? Can you guarantee award money, or how does that work?
Yeah, every year you're on the roster. That's how we do it. I've heard stories about other programs where you have to have a certain grade point average, uh, and other things. But for us, I shake their hand when they agree to come with their letter of intent, and whatever that award money is, we hold them and us to that, and we make sure that we do whatever we can to keep them.
Gotcha. Is there written in the rules, like there's some cap, I assume, on what this award money can be or can't be?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It was very interesting for me when I first started. I had no idea either, but
Right.
yeah, there's ways to do it. We try to take care of everybody. Some teams, you hear stories that it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Some not so much. Some
Yeah.
teams
Yeah.
try to keep everybody the same. Um, yeah, it's an
So you do
interesting.
have a vehicle, though. At the end of the day, there is a vehicle to
Yeah,
motivate players to come there.
yeah.
You can recognize success, however you want to put it, and use that accordingly. Um, yeah. So then the scholarship is do you know how that actually works? I think that'd be a great time. So like the WHL includes, I believe, a year. It's not necessarily at a university of your choice, isn't it? Or is it supposed to be the equitable amount of a university within your geographic area or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So if you grow up in Salmon Arm, what would be the closest university?
UBCO, I guess.
So that whatever the tuition is at UBC Okanagan is what you would put on your forms, and then that's what you get. So the good thing is in Canada, tuition is not not that expensive compared to south of the
Right.
border. Right? So I've never really had a guy say, "Oh, my WHL scholarship doesn't cover my books and tuition." Sometimes in the Sauder School of Business, by year 4, where they have to take certain classes, it might jump up,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's usually a wash for books and tuition.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting because it's even from not the point of this conversation, but from a WHL standpoint, having an American player costs them a lot more money if they don't end up signing that pro deal, right?
Exactly. Very,
Yeah.
very, very true.
Um, so you talked about so I got scholarships. Those come with WHL guys. The way to recruit. How do those recruitments work? I mean, you're doing a lot of things, I guess. Like,
Oh,
how are you keeping track of what guys are doing and where, and
yeah.
how do you talk to them?
Well, do you use Instat?
Yep.
Yeah, Instat's been huge. I guess during COVID, that was our only way to really like check on guys and recruit guys. And since then, really rely on Instat, watching the video. And then it's basically cold calling kids. And their reaction is very similar to yours. Like, I don't know much about U Sports, Sven. I'm focusing on my NHL career. I'm waiting for my contract. And I'm like, yep, totally understand that. Just want to, make sure that we're talking. And if you don't get that call, you don't get that offer that you're happy with, at least come down to UBC, meet everybody, check out the facility, walk around campus. Once I get them on campus here and they meet the guys, we have an unbelievable group of guys. Our staff, our alumni are unbelievable. And then, those blue chip recruits, it takes time and patience because they're still getting a little bit of buzz from NHL teams. They're still getting invited to development camps, so they're not really going to commit very early.
Right.
But yeah, the kids with really good guidance and parents that are on top of it, those conversations go a little bit better. Like I called a kid who was drafted by the Ottawa Senators And when he answered the phone and I introduced myself, he said, I was waiting for your call. So you can't be intimidated by, he's drafted in the third round or not sure if he's going to sign. Like, you basically got to swallow your pride and call everybody, especially kids that grew up in the area and local kids.
Yeah.
We've been lucky in BC. The talent level has really improved over the years. And then I kind of like to reach out to the prairie guys for some of the grittier sandpaper guys. So if you can, you get a combination of kids from across Western Canada. We got one guy from the OHL, Jack Wismer, the guy who scored that big goal on Saturday. When I recruited him a few years ago, I was kind of hoping it would open the door for more OHL guys because, there's a few BC kids every year that are curious as to what it's like living in Halifax, or they want to speak French and they commit to McGill or something.
Yeah.
I just think there's got to be some OHL kids that want to see the ocean and want to experience that West Coast life. So you still try to cast a wide net and go for those guys too.
Right. That's I imagine there's some. I mean, hockey is a network, so meaning that you must have programs that you like to pull from, maybe, like whether it be a certain WHL team where you have a really good relationship with the coach and it's almost like he's calling you and saying, hey, check this guy out. Like how does that kind of network and that back and forth go? And I'll just add one more piece layer to that, because when I'm working with guys now at whatever level, I'm making them really understand the idea that your coach needs to be your biggest fan in some capacity, because that's usually the guy who's answering the phone for you. I didn't understand that as a pro as well as I should have, and I think that affected some things. And I'm just talking with these guys now, like when you are having these conversations, like what do those conversations sound like and what do they look like?
Well, great question, Pods. You find out which teams, GMs, coaches, even agents in that really care, right? Because from the agent side of things, they're not getting paid once the kids come here. How hard are they trying? How honest are they with their guidance to come the U Sport path? So you find out which agents are really caring for the individual. Mm-hmm. And then most of the dub guys are awesome. Like they're super honest and supportive, but also really loyal to their guys. So you got to consider that. We get to watch a lot of Vancouver Giant hockey here, which is great for recruiting. You kind of lean on, like you said, your contacts in the dub. Also, your contacts in the NHL for me are huge, because they have a book on all those kids from when they were 16, 17, maybe 18. Once they're 19, they're like, the NHL amateur scout, their job is the draft. So once they're age out of the draft, they're not really focusing on the 19 or 20-year-olds, but they have the book on them. So I'll reach out to those guys, and they've been a huge asset recruiting-wise, because those guys are unbelievable at their job, and they have pages of info on players, and they talk to trainers and billets, and
they do. So that's what I was going to get into, because I know the players. I mean, we were players. Obviously, we were really concerned about what our on ice stuff was happening. Like how we could skate, or what our shot was like, or what our stats looked like, all that stuff. And maybe not really understanding, the calls that are happening about what type of teammate, or what type of dedication or perseverance, or these types of things. Is that stuff is included in those reports that you're getting?
Oh yeah. Like Cole Schwebus, our starting goalie in the playoffs here, didn't have the best junior career, but one of the scouts that I really lean on and respect said, I don't know how much he can help you on the ice, but he's an incredible human being. And then he just went off about his character. And if you look at the way that you hear the team that he works for, you hear that a lot. We bring in unbelievable people, and you work with them, and you kind of build around them, and you have a confidence in your culture that they'll figure out the hockey stuff. So if you recruit 26 beauties that are going to go to war for each other and die for each other, you got something there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really like that you said that, because the thing, and especially if we're talking like somewhat of an equal or close to equal skill level, right? Like
Totally.
that, who's going to push who, right? And who's going to get more to somebody, and who's going to expand their game more, and who's going to, I mean, like it's just like checkbox, 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 right? When you start really understanding what that personality is like in the room, and that's one of the things I'm trying to get players to buy into, is like, you know, all the time you're spending on your power skating. I mean, I love it. Go do it. Like the physical skill set matters, but like if you're not working on your people side, the human side of who you are and why you're doing it, like you're missing 50% at least of the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And those scouts, like I said, they dig deep. They'll talk to teachers at the schools. They'll talk to the billets, the trainers, the equipment managers. They talk to everybody about that stuff.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And like you said, it's so competitive. I know you're in it with the minor hockey, and you give them you're doing a lot in the minor hockey stuff. You must see so many kids out there that are unbelievable skaters, phenomenal hands, all the Power Edge Pro stuff. Like it's so good, it's so competitive. So you're bang on when you got to find an edge. You got to be able to check another box somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's actually one of the biggest competitive advantages that players have now, you know, like that piece of it. Because the game has become a little bit individualized, right? And a little bit some of those aspects that I think that we really were drawn to with the game when we played. Like, I'm not saying it's not there, but it's just different, right? I think the room is a bit different, and I think the way kids are raised is a little bit different. So I just think that it's not, you don't find, to use your word, a beauty every time you open up a dressing room door, right? Or, you know, there's not as many of them. So I think that they do become a little bit of a shinier object.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding the glue guy.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. So when it comes to, well, first of all, you already said 1,500 fans for like the Western Canadian Championship. And now that's a big difference between what they're going to get in the U.S. college, you know. And I've also seen the dressing rooms, you know, like the facilities at these places, like they're like palaces. They're better than some NHL rooms. So,
Yeah.
Is that just because, like, why? First of all, maybe let's just talk about like the people showing up. Is this because it's not part of our culture? Like U Sports hasn't been a part of the junior is a bigger draw than university hockey is.
I think so. I mean, I grew up in Manitoba, and if you would have talked about the Manitoba Bisons, I'd be like, I don't care about that. I'm not interested. I'm not going to go there on a Friday night and watch. So definitely culture-wise, it's not part of our DNA here. We'd rather go watch a junior hockey game on a Wednesday night where there's more mistakes, and you know, maybe you see more 1-2-2 because the team's been on the bus for 6 hours before. But there's going to be those NHL prospects, so that's super cool and exciting, and you get to follow their careers and all that. So totally get all that. It's also just that that's the hockey side of it. The university side of it, we just don't have that drive. We don't have TV contracts. We don't. You don't walk around campus and see the merchandise and the school colors everywhere. It's right. Just, you know, we're Canadian, and it's not like that here at the university level.
Is there less like I know alumni feed the system a lot in the States. Is that not as much of a thing in Canada, to your knowledge?
No, it is. At our school, it is anyway. When we won on Sunday, our whole hallway was full of alumni from different generations, and talking to some of the guys that have been here a long time, that was the coolest thing they've ever seen, was just the different generations of all the alumni that were here. And maybe we would have loved to win it in 2, but the fact that you win it in 3 on the Sunday allowed more alumni to come and take more hockey in, and yeah, that was phenomenal to see.
I love. I mean, yeah, tradition. I mean, the alum. I mean, it depends. It's not as special when you're playing, at least in the places that I played, because it wasn't really celebrated. I mean, I think it's all about like what ownership does with it, right? But like now that I am an alumni, like it's interesting to see the places that I played and how they handle that, you know. And and what that feels like now as a graduate of the game. And it's pretty special. I mean, a place like Montreal that everyone talks about, like that has the history, celebrates the history, keeps the history present. Like it can be a huge piece of the culture building, that goes on in there.
Oh, you're so bang on. It's a huge part of my recruiting pitch as well, because we do have a phenomenal group of alumni. We do a mentorship program every year. So we'll match up a young guy who's in kinesiology who maybe wants to run his own gym when he's all done. I'll hook him up with a mentor that's taken that same path now, runs a cool gym downtown Vancouver. And, there's another person you can lean on and in your network. Yeah. And for me, and I'm same as you, probably where when we're done, you don't have much of a network because we've been traded, sent down, called up, moved around. You're so close to that one group that year, and the next year it's another group. These guys, because they're kind of stuck with each other because I can't trade them, they've been through so much together in their 5 years that those bonds are so tight. They are friends for life. They help each other in business deals. They go on family trips. They play hockey here Monday nights, every Monday night. They all come here. There's 100 of them. There's 4 teams, and we get to see them. And because we're finishing up our day here, they start coming in. It's another connection point.
That's fantastic.
And it's it's like I tell all those guys to take advantage of that, because when I retired, you don't know what the hell you're going to do or who you're going to call or who you can ask for advice. So it's by far the coolest thing that I've been able to witness here.
Just going to take one more short break from the podcast here to give a shout out not only to some local sponsors that I'm going to recognize individually, but just all across the hockey landscape, those good men and women who are involved in companies, who are involved in some type of corporate entity, and give back to the game that has probably given them so much. So, the community lumberyard that gives back to minor hockey, or the community steel mill, or the mom pa shops that donate to these organizations and associations, and really allow the game to flourish as it has and to lower the costs for those involved in it. I mean, hockey is rising in costs, as is everything. It's not just hockey, but hockey is inherently a more expensive game than others to be played. And it is something that I battle with all the time, is like, what do we do to keep costs low? And how do we protect the pocketbooks of people who are involved? And how do we allow a really good player be a really good player without being from a rich family? It seems to become tougher and tougher for these things to happen. And without the corporate sponsors that are helping keep costs down, I think it would be even more daunting for some people to be involved in the sport. So I just wanted to say that in general. I think it's an amazing thing. I know I try and do my part with Up My Hockey, and even with me with Up My Hockey, like when I do get sponsorship, I'm not sure if people really understand it. I'm not really sure how other people do it, but like the sponsorship dollars that I get go directly to savings for the players involved. So for instance, like the 2 companies that sponsored my spring team this year, that money went directly to the program, to the jersey kits for the parents. So like nothing is in my bank account. There's nothing to do with that. It just lowers the cost for the parents involved. I mean, if those funds didn't come in, they'd each be paying $350 more to have the hoodie and the jersey and the and the socks and the shell and all the things that come with spring hockey now. So thanks to some local companies that were gracious enough and generous enough to say, yeah, I would love to be involved and help that out. Now it saves the families that are involved in my program some hard-earned money. So I think that's a really great thing to recognize, and it is something that I try and do with my programs too as well. I've mentioned that I think here on the podcast is that I don't want mindset training to have to be something, that you have to be rich for. Like I do know the value of it. And I do know that I'm good at it. So there is a value associated with that, but it shouldn't close the door for somebody who's not able to afford that. So I've opened up a scholarship program just internally with Up My Hockey that I do offer programs at reduced rates, sometimes even free for the right person that's there, and I think people should be taken care of if they want to be taken care of, despite how much money you may or may not have. So thank you very much to all the companies out there, whether it be in the States or in Canada, that support youth sports and youth athletics. And obviously, in particular, we are hockey people here at Support Youth Hockey. I think that's a fantastic thing. And I'm just going to give a couple quick reads here. So the two companies that helped me out this year, one was through Darren Kautz, who is a partner with FH&P law firms in the Okanagan, and it's a mid-sized Okanagan law firm with offices in Kelowna and Penticton, providing a range of legal services to commercial and private clients. They start by developing a thorough understanding of your unique circumstances and offer efficient and creative solutions in a cost-effective manner. They have deep roots, reaching back over a century in the community where we represent our clients, and they have accomplished this by continually providing knowledge, experience, and value to everyone they represent. FH&P lawyers, rooted in the community, ready to help. So that's a great alliance for me. I mean, that's something that I'm definitely feel strongly about too. Yeah, I was born and raised in Vernon, played my minor hockey in Vernon for the most part, came back here and raised a family in Vernon. And I know that I'm not alone with other people who have done the same thing in your own home communities. And it's great for me to now service the children in my community, the hockey players, and trying to help them grow and become better athletes and better people, and to give back to the community here. So it's awesome that this law firm has done that as well. And Darren was talked to his partners, and they were able to contribute to the UMH Compete, which is the name of my spring team. So thank you to FH&P. Another shout out here goes to Iron Ghost Construction. Iron Ghost Construction has been incorporated since 2012 and has grown to be recognized as a top contractor in multiple industries such as oil and gas, forestry, and agriculture. From building turnkey production facilities that produce canola oil, biodiesel, condensate, and oil, to keeping the industry changes, or keeping up with the industry changes in forestry, where new technology and equipment are replacing that of the past. Iron Ghost specializes in the main structures, with a large employment of iron workers, crane operators, and millwrights. Iron Ghost has successfully completed projects in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. Iron Ghost, the owner of Iron Ghost, Trevor McKeachney, he has a son that's in some of my programs, my UMH Academy program, and he's a young hockey player coming up through the system. And Trevor himself was actually involved in hockey here with the Vipers. He was on part of the training staff there, which I didn't know, and started as a stick boy. So he definitely has roots here in Vernon as well, and it's awesome to see him and his company doing so well. And that's one of those things that I think is fantastic about something like this and sponsorship, is that I know this podcast, although it has, I think it reached 32 countries now at this point, and about half of the listenership is from the States. There still is a very high percentage from Western Canada. Those that are listening in Canada seem to be out west for the most part, and a lot of people listening to this podcast, hockey people, seem to be oil and gas people, seem to be in industries like that. So, if you recognize Iron Ghost, or if you have a decision to make, or you're a decision maker about who to deal with, wouldn't you rather do business with somebody that gives back to hockey, that gives back to the local communities, that is involved? Just they want to be involved. Like when I asked Trevor about sponsoring the spring team, it was legitimately like a 20-second conversation. Yep, I'd be honored to. Let's go. That was it. No questions. He just wanted to be involved. He wanted to support. So I think that is a type of karma that I think is awesome. When you do give like that, I think when we have our choices about how to use our dollars and cents when it comes to a company's thing, I think Iron Ghost would be a great one to consider if you're out there in Alberta, Saskatchewan, or British Columbia and have a decision on who to make for a construction contractor. So. Thank you to Iron Ghost. Thank you to FH&P lawyers here locally, both for supporting the spring program, and to all you other people out there that have been involved and have given back, whether your time or whether your hard-earned money to youth sports. You're definitely making a difference. So thank you to everyone out there. Now let's get back to the podcast with Sven Butenschon. The thing I was going to ask is, so like when you get these guys, and you kind of already touched on it, that maybe he's out of the WHL, bit of a chip on his shoulder the first, half of the season, doesn't feel like he should be there. Uh, and then that shifts. Like, what is the opinions or like the goals or the attitudes in general of players playing youth sports? Is anyone trying to still be a player? Like, is that like what they're there to do? Or is most guys now shifted gears and they want to be the doctor, the dentist, and play hockey while they're doing it?
We do have a very smart group. We've got like 8 all Canadians, which is 80% or higher, which is crazy thinking about the sport that they play, the physicality, the violence, the travel to all the way to Winnipeg on a weekend, and then have a midterm exam Monday morning. Like, it's crazy that they're still able to excel in that. But to answer your question, they all still live and die for hockey. We have like today, for example, I have an hour ice before practice starts. So the goalie coach gets here, they do their goalie session. Guys want to go out there and work on stuff, they can, and then we'll start practice after the open ice or the skill development ice. And there are, once the guys are here for a few years, the school does get pretty darn heavy, and I wouldn't say their focus shifts, but it just, the school is very, very heavy and very challenging. So it might take away a little bit of their focus from being at the rink. But again, like, that's where the culture and recruiting are just so crucial at this level, because you got to help each other out. And if you have one guy who, was at class during a road trip, he's able to help the guys that aren't. And yeah.
What while we're having this conversation, I just started thinking, like, what is stopping, or why aren't BCHL players, let's say, or AJHL players, like, why is this promised land U.S. schooling? Like, why don't you have any 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds coming out of Canada that are going to you, especially if you have this award money that maybe is the same or different? I don't know. It's just less glamorous, or who knows, I guess.
Yeah, less glamorous. I hear on the radio the commercials from the BCHL, announcing 7 more scholarships, and there's cool music in the background, and they list those kids, and a lot of those kids were already committed before they even got to Penticton, right, or wherever. No disrespect, but yeah, it's just that coolness factor. The stuff, especially on social media, like you're saying about the dressing rooms and the crowds, like, we're never going to be able to match that. So it's a little more, it's very pure here. Like, once you come here, it's such a mono and mono once you're on the ice, because there's no TV, there's not very many scouts anymore. You're not getting called up. Maybe your parents aren't even watching anymore because they're tapped out and they live a province away. But once the guys get on the ice, you're basically looking at 2 dudes who want to rip each other's heads off, and you're playing at such a pure, primal level. It's very cool.
That's wild. So I looked at your team a little bit, and a guy like Jake Lee, or my other guy is like Sam Huo that I grabbed, and those are just names, and just purely from looking at how big they are, where they played, kind of what stats they had in the WHL, and that they're also doing really well now at the U Sports level. Like, are these guys pro hockey players, do you think? And if so, like, what do you get the phone ringing from these guys, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think the first few years I was here, we were struggling to make playoffs. Always a battle to make playoffs, eliminated first round kind of thing. But last few years, with team success, like anything in hockey, right? The more success, the more wins you get, the more eyes are watching, and the more opportunity there is to move on. So now, teams are calling about those 2 guys. Like you said, the size helps. Like, Sammy's 6'5", Leeser's 6'3", and really strong and heavy on the puck. So those guys would make really good pros. Sammy's knock is probably his skating, even though he does get the job done. It's a little bit of a unique style. But then you look at a guy like Mark Stone, who's a captain of the NHL team, who skates this a very similar way. So again, it just goes back to somebody's got to take a chance on these guys.
Right. That's fun though. I mean, it's exciting too, at least for me, assuming that these guys would still maybe like to pursue a pro type of career at some day to know that, the phone is being, is ringing, that there is maybe somebody watching. And I guess all it takes too, I think, is a couple guys, like a couple more Derek Ryans to come out of there, right? And to be a player and be like, okay, this now makes this league credible, and we're going to have more eyes there.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the European opportunities. Like most of the guys, that's where they end up after is Europe. And I think that that Austrian league, the leading scorer is Stephen Oury, who played at U of A, and that's a heck of a league, right? You remember playing some exhibition games against teams from Austria, and then they're scattered around Europe, and excelling over there too.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, I mean, that's something that, again, growing up here, that's not even really on the radar. At least it wasn't for me. But I mean, it's a great place to make really good, solid money, and to also like have a life experience that, like, where would you ever have that? Like my time in Germany was as much as I was a pro. It was just like the experience that I remember more than the hockey, like living in Germany and the culture and where we got to go on the vacations and all that kind of stuff that was so close. Like I really think that was a really cool part of my hockey journey, and I'm super thankful for it.
Yeah, you were really good at that. You really leaned into getting out there and integrating yourself with the city and the coffee shops and the nightclubs and all that stuff. I wish I would have done a better job, but I think Allie and I had kids at that point.
Well, yeah, and you know what? And you ended up playing NHL games after that. So, I mean, maybe I went to a few too many coffee shops and nightclubs. But, like, I mean, just from that perspective, though, like, that was interesting. That lockout year, Heck was back, and, it was I just had my shoulder surgery, so I wasn't really the hockey player that I was previous to that. But it was fun. I mean, that's all I know is like I was really curious about different things and different people and different cultures, and that was part of the juice for me, was for sure being over there and single at a time, not having the family, so I wasn't tied to any responsibilities other than the hockey. And when we had the free time, I was definitely quick to go explore and see what was going on, right? So that was really fun, and more guys should consider that as a viable option, because hockey can be a great vehicle for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think we got all the notes here. I wanted to talk about you because you mean your career, and when I brought up your DB, it's amazing. It's not many times I see a guy that's played in more places than me, but I think you might have doubled me.
Oh man, that wasn't, especially early on, because Pittsburgh, they didn't have their own farm team at the beginning. So to start your pro career in the IHL in Cleveland, then go to Syracuse in the A, back to Houston in the I. Then we finally got Wilkes-Barre. That's when we were the inaugural year there. So pretty important development years, I would say, like seeing how it's run now, how important development is now. Tough way to start your pro career, going 4 different cities, 2 different leagues. And I was always that fringe guy, right? I was always like the 6th or 7th D in the NHL, or the first guy to get called up. So, a lot of hotels, a lot of suitcases.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if we ever have part 2, we'll give it more time, because even playing for Germany, in the Olympics, there's so much cool stuff. And I know the stories for you as a player there must be lots of lessons in there, which is really what this podcast is about too, and the journey for players and how we can share that. And maybe for the last question, because I promised that we'd get you out of here by noon, with that experience, right? Like that experience of playing almost everywhere, playing in so many different organizations, cities, also brings along a hell of a lot of coaches and a hell of a lot of opportunities to be influenced, as a player. Does anybody stand out as far as from a coach is concerned, or is there anything that you pride yourself on now in the position that you're in, that you've either learned or indoctrinated from somebody else?
Oh yeah. I mean, you got so many influential people in your life. You'd start off in junior with Bobby Lowe's and Kelly McCrimmon were running the show in Brandon. And I still talk to both those guys. And
Well, and tell everyone where they are now, because not everyone maybe knows.
So Bobby Lowe's is the director of player personnel for Vegas, and Kelly McCrimmon is the GM. So,
Right.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, when you go to that's kind of where you learn how to be a man, right? And you learn so many lessons there, and at the time you probably don't even know it, and then as you go on to your pro career, that's part of your DNA. And then as you get into coaching, that's probably when I started thinking more about my days in junior, and what that was all about. And then in pro, I would say Dave Tippett, had him in Houston. He was an unbelievable player coach. Craig McTavish in Edmonton was awesome. Alain Vigneault in Manitoba. So before he went to Vancouver, I had him in Manitoba. He was a great coach. And then there was probably 3 times that of coaches that I, really didn't get much out of or didn't agree with. And I'm sure you're with me on some of that. So, okay, if I ever become a coach, I'm definitely not going to do things the way he does it in that situation, or in that PK or that power play. So I would say the most lessons you pick up are how you don't want to do things.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Treat people, right? Because that's such a big part of it is your coach going to say good morning to you when you walk by if you're the 13th forward or the 8th defenseman? And honestly, there's a lot of coaches that don't do that stuff. So fast forward, you become a coach, you make sure you talk to everybody in the room. You make sure you ask everybody how their families are doing and how school's going, and not just your top players.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because like when you were talking about great coaches, the ones that you had, in my head, I was thinking what I've heard from them. Dave Tippett's great person. Vigneault, great person, great communicator. Can't remember who else you said there, but like that, when I look back too, is like those were the guys. Like some guys are better in X's and O's. Yes, there is a differentiator there, but most guys that are behind the bench like do get the game, right? Like the game side of it. I think it was the people side that got missed most often.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep. And isn't that the way to really impact people? Like, I think it is. And that's one of the hard things that you can't fake either, right? Like you can tell yourself, yeah, go talk to everybody. But if you're not connected into that conversation with that 13th forward and you're just doing it for lip service, he sees right through that shit too, right? So I think that you need to be a good person to be an effective coach. I think even more so in this generation than ever before. Because it's not just a jump and everyone says how high. Like you need to have a connection with players to get more out of them, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And with a little bit of luck and bounces and whatever, and you do have success, and you do make a playoff run, or you do win a championship, isn't it better to have a group of guys that have kind of relied on the culture and the team bus mentality, rather than winning a championship maybe just because you were scared to make mistakes, or this is what the coach wanted? If you get 26 guys that believe that their fingerprints are on the success of the team and the win that night, and they're a part of that process, whether it's bringing them to meetings or asking them what they think of the power play breakout, all that stuff. If you allow them to be a part of that and you get success, my goodness, like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, that's a great way to wrap. You obviously got something going on there. I'm sure the longer you're a part of the organization, I mean, the more you feel intrinsically a part of the culture, I'm sure, like your fingerprints are all over it at this point. And I'm sure, that's a really, really special achievement here, into your 8th year here, having the championship and knowing that this is a group that you recruited and you've grown together with, I'm sure as an individual level as well, and see these young men grow into men. So congratulations on all that, Sven. I really appreciate you taking the time here. Best of luck in the big championship. What's that called? National championship? Is that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, we're off to nationals on Monday. 8 teams get invited to the big dance, and it's a elimination system. So if you lose the first game, you're out. You got to win three games to raise the national championship.
That's it. 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Since we're with the top Western team, we'll be probably the third rank because there's a team in Ontario that'll be ahead of us, UQTR.
Yeah.
Just because the way the rankings have been all year, they finished ahead of us, even though our schedule is the hardest because in the top 10 rankings, you've got Alberta, Saskatchewan, well, maybe not Sask right now, but Calgary, Mount Royal. Like you got to go through 4 or 5 top 10 teams in Canada to come out of the West. But you got to win 3 games out there against good teams. So we're not too concerned about who we're getting. We're just going to go out and do our thing and play our game. And we have enough belief and confidence that we can get the job done.
Wouldn't that be awesome to get a chance at UNB there? Hey?
Yeah, imagine that.
That would be unbelievable. Yeah, I mean that 30-0 year. I know I won't drag this on, but what a crazy story that is. They didn't get that much attention, and even looking at that group, like 47 goals against in 30 games, like that's crazy. What they've been doing there. So hopefully you get a chance in the final, and for you guys to give them their first loss, and that would be a great way to end it for you. Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, we'll catch up after you bring home the trophy, and thanks for being here.
Anytime. Thanks, Pods.
Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to the entire episode with Sven. I really enjoyed that conversation. I have much greater knowledge about youth sports. I do believe, it starts with the exposure of it and what it is. And if those of you are in a market that has a team, go watch. The hockey is incredible. I take Sven's word at it. Like I said, I haven't seen a game, but for him to say, it is what it is, I believe him at face value that it is that you are going to see a heck of a hockey game on a Friday or Saturday night in your area where a university is. So by all means, it kind of breaks my heart. He was talking that they had 1,500 fans in their arena. I have no idea how many seats their arena holds. I wasn't able to ask that question as he was on a tight timeline, but 1,500 to watch some amazing hockey at a championship level. Is a little bit sad to me. I think back to my time in Spokane when we played for the WHL championship, and we had over 10,000 people in that Spokane arena. People lining up outside the arena, sleeping outside in the sidewalk to get tickets the next day. Obviously before the time of internet and everything else, to get tickets and to have these great hockey players, leaving it all out there on the ice and having 1,500 people there. I think that there should be more and should be a greater appreciation for what's happening. So, if you're an NHL scout, and I know you're out there, and I know you are listening, some of you, go see these places. Like, why wouldn't there be free agents there worth signing? Like it happens at the NCAA level that 23, 24 year old seniors come out of there and get NHL deals and play pro right away, AHL, even NHL level. Like this, the programs in Canada with the hockey players playing in them, predominantly Canadian hockey players playing in them, they're good and they care and they play hard. And why not recognize that league and get some eyes on it, and which in turn would get more people eager to play there. Nothing against our American counterparts, but I'm sure the Americans don't really like Canadians going down there and taking away their scholarship spots either, right? They should want to be developing their own American hockey players through their collegiate system, as we should be wanting to develop our players through our collegiate system. So I think we should have a clearer pathway to youth sports in general. It seems like it's definitely not a highly considered option at this point, although it is becoming more highly considered as we discussed here on the podcast with the WHL scholarships are now associated with it. I think that's a great move. But boy, we should be doing more to promote that program and to promote it from within. And also it needs to be promoted externally, though, as I said, with it being recognized by professional scouts and professional leagues and with professional contracts, that this is a place where you can go to develop and you still will be recognized and can go and play pro hockey. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Sven, we should have him back because, again, his tenure and resume as a player is very extensive, and I'm sure there's lots that we could find there to not only celebrate but to break down and find lessons from. But that will be for another time. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for being here, and hope to see you again for the next episode. Till next time, play hard and keep your head up.